let's turn our attention to a huge game tonight, live and exclusive on TalkSport. Manchester United v Everton, the FA Cup third round. Let's speak to the Toffee Blues Everton podcast man, Terry McAllister. Terry, good evening.
Hi, Terry.
Evening or good morning, as it were.
Yeah, look, bad time for Everton at the moment. Watched the game the other day against Brighton. Absolutely woeful defending. There was potential talks about Lampard leaving the club. What's your take on Frank at the minute?
Well, Frank is not the main problem at Everton. He is a problem. I don't think he's the right man to manage Everton, but I don't think he's the root of the problems. There's a problem culture at the club where the higher ups, the hierarchy, don't seem to learn any lessons, and they always keep making the same mistakes. So on Lampard, I don't think he can last much longer. He's won 3 games all season. He doesn't seem to have much hope of improving things. But it's do you trust the hierarchy to replace him properly, because they've shown previously that they're not very good at doing that.
Terry, I was at Goodison when they played Wolves. I'd done the co-commentary, and I just thought they looked a bit like blunt. You know, not enough players who could make a goal. They went 1-0 up, if you remember, for Mina's header.
Yeah.
And then Anthony Gordon's had a couple of chances which he should have taken, and eventually they settled for a point. And then obviously Wolves nicked the game at the end, and then they go Man City and win, which I was a bit surprised at, and then they get battered the other day. The fans, I mean, they've been brilliant, the fans, but that result and the back pass for the last goal just about summed it up.
Oh, I know. I mean, the Man City game sticks out a mile because it actually, in a strange way, suits this group of players more to play that way. There's no pace up front whatsoever, no creativity, no goal threat. But there are some really good personnel defensive-wise. So there's Cody, there's Tarkovsky, Jordan Pickford. So when the onus is on the other team, can Everton get back and defensive, play all right. But when the onus is on us to go and give the opposition a game, there's just nothing about us. They've got into the season, the club, hoping Dominic Calvert-Lewin will stay fit, and he's barely been fit. So there's no focal point, and the wide players, other than Damari Gray, who's a sort of 1 in 5 games player, no one else really turns up and does anything.
Yeah. Look, if Lampard loses this game, Terry, what happens? Because I know it's the FA Cup, you'd be disappointed you go out, but it's not the Premier League, and that's, you know, the focal point for Everton this season. If he loses, though, do you sack him? And who comes in at Everton at this moment in time?
Well, I think the writing is on the wall for him anyway. I think the fact that he's even taken this game is just to give the club an opportunity to speak to the next manager. And I personally, I would throw everything at Sean Dyche. He's not for everyone, but I think he'd be perfect for us. He gets the most out of the least, and he's operated at Burnley for years under much stricter and harsher circumstances than at Everton. So I think he'd be a great appointment if we could attract him.
I think you need a striker, definitely. I mean, Rondon's gone now, isn't he? So Calvert-Lewin, he seems to be fit, nearly fit every Friday morning, and just can't get himself on the pitch. Mapai, to me, when you've got Dwight McNeil, Damari Gray and Anthony Gordon, surely all you need is someone who's going to get on the end of crosses and just tell them to get the ball in the box.
Yeah, we've got to find one, and one that doesn't cost money either, from the sounds of what the club have been saying. Like Lampard said, that it's about the right player, and we might look at loans. So I think we've got to be very resourceful. But we need someone who's a presence in the box, because Calvert-Lewin, you know, he's perfect for us, but he's never fit, and he gets fit for a game or two and then goes back out the team. And Mopai, you know, he's not what we needed. I don't know why we bought him. He's not that type of, you know, penalty box, you know, striker. So we need someone who can get on the end of crosses, and really someone else who can provide them as well, because those 3 wide players you mentioned are not consistent enough with their quality for us to rely on.
What does Lampard do in terms of the team going into this game? Because, look, we know Everton have got to stay up this season. It's a real bad moment for them. But the FA Cup can bring a bit of magic, can bring a bit of momentum, can bring a bit of confidence. Does he pick a really strong side going into this game?
I think there's no question he'll pick a strong side because he knows his job's on the line. Even if it's already decided behind the scenes that he won't be going on much longer, I think in his shoes he's going to play the same team as or the similar team to against Man City and play in the same way. He's got to get a result to sort of prove to the fans and everyone else that the players are still playing for him, but be a tall order.
And another worry is I looked at the goalkeeping stats. The league stats were second in the league, most saves this season, Jordan Pickford. You've got Connor Cody and Tarkowski, two men who want to win in front. You'd think, wouldn't you, with just them three, you've got a chance of keeping a clean sheet, but I was shocked by that result the other night.
Yeah, it's just the setup was naive. I have no idea why Frank changed it from the three at the back against Man City that worked so well to suddenly changing the formation and playing 4-3-3 and trying to play progressive style of football. And the players can't do it. They're not good enough to play that way. That quote unquote right way of playing. We should be a pragmatic, counter-attacking team, and that suits the players, and it certainly suits the defenders who you mentioned. But he doesn't seem to want to play that way, and it's very naive from Lampard, I think.
Yeah, one thing I worry about with Lampard is I watched him at Chelsea's teams at Chelsea, and he ended up getting a sack because of the defensive frailties and the way he wanted to play, and he stuck to his guns and was like, I'm playing this way, but I'm leaking goals. And I don't know if he's learnt from that. He's at Everton now, and he's still trying to play that style of football. But you're leaking goals and conceding goals. But it doesn't look like he wants to go, right, I've got to be adaptable. We're in a dogfight again. I haven't got Richarlison this season. So I need to do something different. I don't know if he wants to do that.
No, I think he's a bit of a purist as a manager. He doesn't want to be pragmatic. He doesn't want to do the dark arts type stuff, which is mad to me because the best part of his career was under Jose Mourinho, who was the master of that, and he hasn't seemed to pick that up from him. He wants to play the progressive, forward-thinking football, which is great, but not if you haven't got the players to do that. And we're letting goals go like Richarlison and not replacing them with goal scorers. So we're less equipped to play like that than even we were last season. So I don't know why he did learn quickly when he came into the club that he can't play like that and went defensively, but then he's abandoned it again straight away. I don't know whether he thinks now that he's had a few transfers through the door, that he can go back to the way he wants to play, but it's clearly not working. He's only won 3 games all season.
Yeah, and while I was at the game, I mentioned it earlier, the Wolves game. I went through the Wolves squad, and I went through before the kickoff, I went through the Everton squad. And there's no players in that squad who've got a history of a goal record. None of them. So it's all right being organised and getting the team solid and then counter-attacking, but if there's no instinct in the team, someone, you haven't got a David Platt or Frank Lampard or somebody who just arrives in the box and gets goals. Tim Cahill used to get 10 a season, but there's not one of the players in the squad that's got a goal record.
No, the club's been terrible for that for the past few years. Every time goals and assists and creativity goes out the door, it's not replaced. You've sold Luka Dean, Richarlison, let James Rodriguez go, and we've not replaced increasingly injury-prone Calvert-Lewin. So there's 4 big goal contributors, and none of them have been replaced at all. They just sort of go out the team, and then we carry on with the same group of players. And every transfer window, we need players who can put the ball in the net, and we just don't seem to get them. Now, I'm not always saying we've got bad buys, because Tarkowski and Cody were a great bit of business, but you needed goals to go with that, and they haven't done it, and now they're paying for it.
Yeah. Terry, if you could have a golden egg right now, and you could pick and choose who exactly what you wanted, and you could bring someone in January as a manager and players and a style of football, is it Sean Dyche?
I think Sean Dyche should be a perfect fit. I understand some people are not into the idea because he's got a reputation for playing very negative football, but I think the dose of pragmatism is what we need. I think he'd be great for Everton, so Sean Dyche for me all the way.
Okay. All right, Terry, absolute pleasure, mate. Thanks for coming
Terry.
on. Cheers, lads.